is Coach Scott Martin with the Ohatchee Indians, and you're watching Average Joe's Sports Talk.
All right, Coach, your first year at Ohatchee in 2014, your team went 1-9, 0-7 in the region. You fast forward to 2018, you guys went 11-1, 6-0, and won 2A Region 6 champs. Now, I know a lot of the players had a lot to do with that turnaround, but there is an argument to be made that your wife is one of the biggest reasons for this amazing turnaround at Ohatchee. For those that don't know, can you talk a little bit about how you made your way to Ohatchee from Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa?
Okay, I'll give you the short version of it. I was invited to play in the Sunny King golf tournament. I was living in Hoover. Had played with a friend of mine in this area that was from this area, Eric Messer. But he said that Brett Rothwell needed a partner, and Brett and I had played golf before, so I agreed to do it. I played 3 days of golf in my first Sunny King ever. Enjoyed the heck out of it, and a guy that was staying at Brett's house that was a friend, everybody that was kind of around would all stay in the same house. And so one of the guys that was staying at the house asked me if I would take him to a pool party, and I said, sure. I don't have to be at football workouts in the morning. I said, I'll take you. And so I took him and went over there, and he goes, well, come on in. You know, we met them last night when they were out and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. So I went around the corner, and there were some people in the pool, and they invited me over, took me in, you know, made me feel like I knew them the whole time. I ended up going in and going swimming, and somewhere in the pool, my to-be wife stepped on my foot. And I think it was just a conversation starter, to be honest with you. I think she did it on purpose. Move. It was smooth. She's pretty smooth. She's an attorney. She's got all those tricks of the trade down. So she stepped on my foot. We got to talking back and forth, and from that day on, it was love at first sight, and we hadn't been apart very much since then.
Wow, that is pretty cool.
I mean, it's out of nowhere. It was fate, because I'd have been on my way back to Hoover and would have never met her. So it was fate.
That is awesome. Now, Coach, you've coached at some larger schools and some smaller schools. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to the pros and cons of each, and what the biggest difference between the two is?
I used to think that there was a huge difference, you know, but as far as coaching between the lines, it's the same every Friday night. I mean, the crowds might be a little bit smaller, and you've got to play some kids both ways. So that's, you know, when you want to know a difference, that's a difference, is that you're limited in numbers, and then you take those numbers, and most of them are playing both sides of the ball at the smaller schools, where the large schools, you'll two platoon it. And, you know, we don't do that at Ohatchee. We'll end up with 5, 6, or 7 guys, 8 guys starting both ways. And, you know, we're trying to find 15 to 18 guys that can play for us every year. At a large school, obviously the numbers are different, but you know, you teach a little bit more at the smaller schools because you're limited in faculty. But if I had to choose between the two, and not just because it's where I'm at, I mean, I have loved coaching at the smaller school level, and even when I was up in Louisiana coaching at Rayville for the year that I was there, you know, we went from they were 3-26 before I took that job, and we go in there and win the district the year that I'm there. And of course, I end up going back, I say home, back down in South Louisiana the next year. But you know, while I was there in the short period of time, you know, I was able to help them get the plans together to build a new field house, and had a lot of input in it, and rallied them around, and it really turned their program around. And you know, I felt like we were the base building blocks for that. And I have enjoyed coaching at Ohatchee. I like the pace of life. I like the pace of school. But the football's no different. You still have to game plan, and when you make calls on Friday night, it's the same. It doesn't matter whether there's 1,000 people in the stands or 10,000 people in the stands. I really don't pay attention to that anyway, so I don't recognize that as much.
Okay. On that note, you know, you talk about the two-way players mm-hmm. two ways in the smaller schools. After this weekend coming up, you're actually going to be the head coach of an NFL Hall of Famer, that being Ed Reed. You coached Ed in high school. Ed was an amazing talent, and you were tempted to play him two ways at safety and then flip him over and play him at running back and quarterback. But early in Ed's senior season, you made a decision that was huge, had a huge effect on the season, how that went. Can you talk about that decision? And
well, I mean,
Ed,
Ed, we were still in limbo. Obviously, he was a great football player, but he was so talented. I mean, he runs the ball extremely well and has great sense and when the ball's in his hands. But he was also, you know, as his nickname, ball hawk on defense. You couldn't take him off the field defensively, so we tried to play him at running back / quarterback in the wing T. And also play safety. And just after the first game, it was so hot. If you've ever been down in South Louisiana, much like South Alabama, the humidity is so much. And, you know, he cramped up at halftime. Ed was about 5% body fat or less. I mean, he was nothing but just chiseled muscle. And so he would end up cramping up. And when he didn't get to finish the game, and we ended up getting beat pretty good. And we came in and we said, you know, this can't be our MO every week, is him playing a half of football. He's the best player on the field. And it was obvious that his talents probably were on the defensive side and the return side of the game. So we made a decision to go with a sophomore quarterback and go ahead and put Ed at the safety full time.
On that note right there, what do you think is the biggest difference with football, the way it's played today, as when someone such as yourself or myself played years ago?
I think everything. You know, when you get old coaches are going to tell you that it goes in cycles. Okay? And I'm old enough to see that it's gone in cycles. I mean, the things that we're doing on offense right now, which is, you know, too tight, smash mouth type football, you know, was huge back when I first started coaching football. And you'd be amazed at how many people are migrating toward that. You know, it's probably a little bit more in Georgia than it is in Alabama, but the spread game, you know, fits a certain talent level. The smash mouth game fits a certain talent level. But I've always believed you're going to win and lose football games depending on how good your offense and defensive lines control the line of scrimmage. And it doesn't matter whether you throw it every down, run it every down, whatever you do, those are going to be the tall tale signs. Now, that being said, if you don't have the skilled athletes to put out wide, you know, they'll say, oh, we run a spread offense and we do that so we can run the football. But the bottom line is if they don't respect your skilled athletes, they're still going to put more people in there than you've got, and they can stop you. And we found that out my first year at Ohatchee. They crowded everybody in the box, manned us up across the outside, and said, beat us passing. And we couldn't do it. We threw 19 interceptions that year.
19 interceptions. On that note, Coach, who is another coach you faced over the last few years that you really have a tremendous amount of respect for?
Gosh, there's a lot of them. Obviously, Paul Benefield, it's kind of a newfound rivalry, but a lot of what we've modeled our program around we got from Fife a few years ago, and we might talk about that in a few minutes. Obviously, Steve Smith, what he's been able to accomplish at Piedmont. You know, on the other end, when you take a guy like Jonathan Nix, that's gone to Pleasant Valley, you know, in a place that's never been super successful, similar to Ohatchee in the later years. Ohatchee's been successful way down the line, but, you know, he's gone over there and he's given them an identity which they didn't have when I got here. But, you know, like I said, Steve sticks out. Paul sticks out. Guys that are more in my class. I mean, I could go on and on because there's so many good coaches in Alabama, but those guys definitely are kind of the ones that in this part of the state are the ones that you're looking at.
Speaking of great coaches, you played for the legendary Coach Hedges while at Captain Shreves High School. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Coach Hedges was introduced to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 2010. Can you talk about the impact he's had on your coaching career, not just that, but you yourself in general in life?
He is one of the biggest. I would say there's two coaches that influenced my career. Obviously, my high school head football coach and my college head football coach, Pat Collins. Lee Hedges was just the epitome of the calm demeanor. I never heard him raise his voice in the years that I played for him, nor the years afterward, because I kept in touch with him. He talked in a very monotone, low, I mean, you almost had to lean in to hear him talk, but everything he said was important. He was probably one of the first guys that was huge in film breakdown back in the 70s. I mean, we had the 16 millimeter, and that guy watched film religiously, and he would pick the one or two things that you didn't do well, and he would capitalize against you. He would make you pay for things that you didn't do well. He was a great film guy. He also kept the same level of intensity. Now, like I said, I'd say he didn't raise his voice, but it wasn't that he wasn't an intense person. He was very competitive. He's a tremendously competitive tennis player his whole life. He's really intense, but he was always the same demeanor the whole time. It didn't matter whether we were up big, whether we were down big, whether it was a tight game. You couldn't read that on his face. And so that's rubbed off of me a lot, in the fact that in football games, I think that in tough times, your kids are going to look to your head coach and see how is he responding. And if he's handling it, I think it gives the kids a sense of calm. And so I think that's what Lee Hedges brought to me, was that sense of calm on the sideline.
That is amazing. Speaking of that, like in terms of your coaching style, the desire to push a player beyond their breaking point, get them out of their comfort zone and make them better, the point that you've actually talked about us recently, the way you do it, you have to do it with different players. Is there one story in particular where you've pushed a player, got him out of his comfort zone, and have a success story out of that?
Good gosh, I'd like to think we push them all out of their comfort zone, to be honest with you. Now, I won't name specific players in the fact that I don't want to embarrass anybody, but there's quite a few players that have played for us over the last 3 years at Ohatchee that, probably going into their 7th, 8th, 9th grade years, we said, that guy's never going to play for us. And if he does, we're not going to be very good, or we're not going to win a game, or whatever. But because they've stuck with the program the whole time, you need those guys that are program players. You've got to have them. If you don't have them, then you're not going to be very successful. I mean, because if all you're going to rely on is the one or two great athletes that you have, then your seasons are going to be up and down. There's going to be no consistency to your program. And when something goes wrong with that, maybe that player or something gets nicked up or whatever, then your kids will know real quick whether you've built your program or whether you've built it around one player. And I think that that's one of the things we've been able to do well. Is I think that Coach Finley in the weight room pushes them out of their comfort zone, and our other assistant coaches during practice push them out of their comfort zone. I think we put them in some situations. I know when Coach Jennings is running our defense, he calls defenses against different scout plays that he knows are not the best defense to put kids in a bind to see how they're going to react, and then he coaches them through that bind if they don't react the way we want them to react. In the weight room on the our summer program, we spend all year getting stronger and getting bigger during the off season. Now, we're not a bunch of fat guys. I mean, we keep them pretty lean, but during the summer, I mean, we run the absolute heck out of those guys. I mean, we really do. And I think we push a lot of them past their comfort zone, but the proof's in the pudding now, so it's not as hard to do. But we've stepped it up, and this summer I thought was a great example of pushing it to another level.
It's actually become the normal now.
It is.
Okay.
It is. It
good.
is.
Speaking of like modern day players, there's so many distractions going on: cell phones, video games, getting cars. How do you keep your players dialed into what you want them to do here at Ohatchee?
Well, it's about priorities. It's about putting the importance on there. I haven't been a guy that has gone in and banned this, banned that, can't do this, can't do that, whatever. I always tell them there's a time and a place for everything. And so, if guys get ready different than we used to. Man, when I got ready for football back in the late 70s, I mean, we all went in the gym, we turned off the lights. I mean, it was quiet. You had the whole team laying in there. Not a word was being spoken. It was nothing. Now, kids have headphones in. I don't know what they're listening to. Probably don't want to know what they're listening to. But, I mean, some of them are listening to rap. Some of them are listening to country. Some of them are listening to good knows what they're listening to. and then some of them are sitting over there jee-hawing back and forth with each other. Some of them are over there, or maybe they're in a different room with the lights turned out and it's quiet time for them. I've just found that allowing the kids to get ready the way that they're comfortable, it hasn't been a detriment to us yet. Now, if it ever was, obviously we'd put a stop to it. But, I found that a lot of our big-time players, want to be relaxed going into the football game. I mean, the butterflies are going to be there. If the butterflies aren't there, you aren't a competitor. So it doesn't matter how relaxed they are. They get a little nervous when the game starts. But, I don't want them to expend all of that energy, just intense at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, we're not playing until 7. Yeah. I don't want them going out to pregame warm-up and going, man, we look like we're dead. We're tired. So if they want to lay back and do what they want to do, I mean, I know sometimes as coaches, I've got to go in there and say, hey, cut it out or what like that. But for the most part, the seniors take control of that, and our kids are following along, and it's never been a problem. So I'm real proud of that.
Awesome. Unlike a lot of the high school coaches that we've interacted with since our channel came about, you're actually on social media a pretty good bit. Here at Average Joe's, we actually love reading your words of wisdom in the morning from the lovely M&M Paradise here. We noticed you dropped multiple hashtags at the end of your post. 2 of them that stuck out to us is be bold and live forever. Can you talk about those 2 phrases?
Live forever. Yeah. Well, it's live forward.
Live forward.
Live forward. Yeah. And I wish I could give credit where credit was due, because somewhere I was reading about how somebody was talking about being bold, and I believe in living forward. I mean, I think that you can use the past to learn from, you can use the past to grow from, but I don't think you can live in the past. I think that holds you back, because we can't change anything about what's going on in the past. We can change what's going on today, tomorrow, etc., in the future. And then when I say be bold, I want people to chase their dreams, do the things that they want to do. I don't ever want to get back to say, I wish I had done this. And I think that's one of the things that we've been able to do and relay to our football players. And I tell our guys all the time to, the team's first, and we talk about, and I'll give you a good football example. If something goes wrong during a football game, it's not uncommon for me, and I've done this in some other teams. A young man fumbles the football. Well, everybody on the field, in the stands, everywhere knows that he fumbled the football. So, I might walk up to him and put my arm around him and look and say, I bet they never expected that, did they? And he'll look at me like, and then I'll give him a little smile, and it takes all the pressure off, because when they come to the sideline, they're mad at themselves, they're embarrassed, they've done this, and they're waiting to get chewed out. Well, that's not the time to chew them out. The time to chew them out is in practice when things don't go. I'm going to be on you in practice about securing the football and protecting the football. But in a game, fumbles happen. We're just very fortunate. We played 12 games last year and had 3 fumbles. We lost 3 fumbles. That's it.
That's amazing.
We lost 2 in the first 2 games, 1 in each game, and then we did not lose another one till the 5th game. And that was actually friendly fire where we ran into the back of our own guy and it got knocked out. But when I say be bold, I mean I want our guys to, and in life in general, I want people to chase what they want, dream what, and I want them to live forward. And like I said, don't get caught up living in the past, because like I said, it ends up it can pull you down.
Your wife has always wanted to live on the lake. When you moved from Tuscaloosa to Ohatchee, you and your wife bought this beautiful home here on the lake, where we're filming this video, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's turned out to be a dream come true to you. Since then, you've turned Ohatchee football team around and changed the mindset of the players and the communities. But life has its peaks and valleys. And last year, your family went through a deep valley. You spoke to us last week in depth about this and your admiration and amazement of your wife's strength through that valley. Can you give us a minute and talk to us about what happened?
Sure. It's actually 11 months to today. We lost our stepson, Alan, in an accident over in Nashville. And it's one of those things that I mentioned in my post this morning about life having peaks and valleys, and having to pull out of those valleys and stop and be still and soak it in and reflect. Well, 11 months today, we lost Alan in an accident over in Nashville. He worked for a power company and was electrocuted while working on a power line over in Nashville. And I was actually out on the field painting the field for the game that we're playing the next night against White Plains, and my wife called me and told me he'd been in an accident, and we didn't know the status, and they were going to go ahead and go to Nashville. And then she called me back 30 minutes later, and she was just apart. I mean, she was gone. She was just, I knew what that meant. And so I dropped everything. I went over to her office. And, my wife's extremely strong. I mean, she pulled herself through this. And it's one of those things that I never want anybody to ever have to go through it, but it is part of life and people do go through it. But I admire the way she has handled this, because on a daily basis, she tackles it head on. She doesn't avoid it. I watch how she handles herself and how professional she handles herself, and she's able to do her job. And, it's got to be the most heartbreaking thing, because as my stepson, it was heartbreaking. But I can't imagine it if it had been one of my two my born sons that were mine, because it's something you would never want anybody to go through. But she is rebounded. She's living forward. We celebrate the past. We celebrate all the moments we've spent with Alan. We celebrate all the things that we've done. But it was a tough life lesson. But the one thing we've done is we've turned this disappointment into a celebration of his life. And I know she always says 27 forever, because that's how old he was. And every holiday's tough. I mean, because we wish he was here. We bring his sons down all the time, and they go boating with us and get out on the pontoon and get out. We pull them around on the jet ski. And so they really, we're not going to stop living because of that, but we've learned some life lessons. And, it's one of those things that, as it's gone, the admiration I have for her is just unparalleled, because, she was a single mom with 3 kids, and this was her firstborn. And, being a single mom with 3 kids, she put herself through college. When people said, you don't go to college with 3 kids, you go to work. So she did. She worked 3 jobs and went to college. And then she put herself through graduate school with 3 kids. Then she put herself in law school with 3 kids. And at 35 years old, she opened up her own law practice, and she's been practicing law for 10 years now. And so there were a lot of you can't. So the one thing I learned about my wife says, don't give me reasons why you can't, because those become excuses. And so she's a very positive influence, and she's a no-nonsense person. As loving and as fun as she is, she's got her side that's strong and firm, and she does not have a lot of sympathy for people that say, I can't, because she's been there and she's done it. And so when this accident with Alan is just further resolved how strong she is. And, she's my biggest hero. I mean, I'm her. I look at her and I say, if somebody says, who's your hero? She is. I can tell you that right now, because what she's been through and what she does is unparalleled to any. And I just hope I can be part of like she is, because I don't always have that resolve.
On that note, we obviously have a lot of love and admiration for your wife. That's beautiful. What would we find you two guys doing on an off day when there's no coaching involved, she's not at work, and you guys are just at home? Or what would you guys be doing?
Well, it's here. This is it. We're going to be on the boat. We're going to be out on the water, or we're going to go camping, or we're going to get in the Jeep and drive up to Cheehaw. My wife is not a big TV person. I mean, we'll watch a little. I'll watch it. She works. If we're going to be at home and nobody's doing anything, she's probably going to be working. All right, and being an attorney, she's got plenty of work to do. But when we are just getting away from everything, our number one things are, obviously we're going to be on the boat. And if anybody follows us, we are concert junkies. All right, we're going to go somewhere. We've been to Mexico, Cancun twice, and Luke Bryan's Crash My Playa. We're going back a 3rd year. That is a staple of our lives in January. We're going for 5 days to Cancun. We're going to go see every country concert or even other concerts. Last year, we got in the car, we drove to St. Pete's Beach, and we went to Tampa and saw Maroon 5. So, we're not just limited to country. We're more country fans, but we've gone to CMA Fest a couple of times. We've, we'll travel. The biggest thing that happened is, earlier in her life, she'd had her house broken into and people stole some stuff out of there. And she learned right then, you can steal material things, but you can't steal memories. And so her whole mantra is making memories. Let's make memories. And because you can't take memories away from you. Kind of like with her son. I mean, we made some memories going out to Crab Island and going places with him and taking him with us out to Arizona, that now we're so blessed that we did that. because had we not done that, that'd have been that much less time we wouldn't have had with Alan. But we go and make memories a lot of places. We like to go to Gatlinburg. We went to Chicago. We've been to Jacksonville, Charleston, Savannah. We had a trip scheduled to Miami right at the end of this school year that we didn't get a chance to go to because we had something else come up. But we just sold our older camper, bought a new camper, and since last spring, I think we've already camped 5 times in it, and just got back from Gulf Shores, which while we were down at, I say Gulf Shores, we were at Orange Beach, but while we were down there at Orange Beach, we took in Luke Bryan concert. So, we weren't, that's right. We got to do 2 things. So traveling or getting on the boat, and then if she's got to work, then I'll play some golf. And that's about the 3 things I do.
I'm glad you said that. Most coaches play golf as a hobby. You actually lettered 2 years of golf at ULM. You recently shot the low score of the day at 68 at Pine Hills Invitational. How competitive are you when it comes to golf?
I'm very competitive. I think that, I played high school golf. I actually quit high school baseball. I was playing high school football, but I quit high school baseball to play high school golf. Some of my friends said, hey, you ought to come play on the golf team. So I did, and I played my last 2 years of high school. I played golf and football. So then when I went to college, I walked on as a kicker at Northeast. I made the team. I ended up being the kicker because the other kicker didn't work as hard during the summer. And I worked real hard during the summer, and he ended up pulling a muscle, so I ended up kicking the first game of the season against Indiana State. And I made 5 extra points and a field goal, and they walked in that afternoon and told my parents he'll be on full scholarship Tuesday. And boy, that was my life. So,
really?
So I played football. I was on scholarship the next 4 years, and then the spring before my senior year, I approached our head football coach, or the golf coach actually approached our head football coach, and asked if he would allow me to try to play golf in the spring for the university. And unbeknownst to me, he did. And so my spring before my senior year and the spring after my senior year, I lettered and played 2 springs of college golf. So I've always been on the competitive nature. I think, I've won 9 club championships at various clubs. I won the Baton Rouge Open, with 200 plus golfers in it. I won the Silver Lakes Championship in 2012. I shot 70-64. 2012 really seems like it was yesterday, but it's already almost 7 years ago. So, or it is 7 years ago. So, and I've shot some good scores in golf, but I am competitive, and I like to play in competitive tournaments because, like I said, I like to be competitive outside of football. Everything, I like to have that individual competition. And so I've done that my whole life and played it for a long time, and not bad at it. I could be better. The problems I have in golf is I don't hit it as far as some of these guys hit it today. Boy, I wish I'd have grown up hitting it like that, but I never did hit it like that. But it's a great hobby to have. It's a real good hobby to have. Married to my wife. My wife's an attorney, like I said. She works extremely long hours a lot of time, and she loves it sometimes when she knows that I can entertain myself. Because I'm not a needy person or hanging all over all the time, and she's not needy and hanging all over the time. When we're together, but we also can have our individual lives that we live, and it works well for us.
All right, Coach, do you think you'll know with 100% certainty when it's time to hang the coach's hat up, or do you think that's going to be one of those decisions you're going to go back and forth on?
I'm going to say right now, no. Health-wise, since last football season, I've lost 40 pounds. I feel better than I've ever felt. Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel better than I've ever felt at this time for a long time. Every day I wake up, I still feel like that 26-year-old guy out the gate. My first coaching job, I was 27 as a head coach. I was a head coach at 27. I still feel like that guy. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see a bald gray head and some gray whiskers and some wrinkles, but I don't feel different at this point. So, I don't know when the end's coming. This will be my 34th season, be my 27th season as a head coach.
That's incredible.
I'm loving it. I'm having a blast doing it. I guess they could say, Coach, are you getting ready to go? But I in no way have thought about retirement. People will say, well, first of all, I'm vested in Alabama, but I'm only 56. I'll be 57 next week, or actually this coming Saturday. But I can't draw it till I'm 60. So that's at least another 3 years. I'm in no hurry to hang it up. I'm afraid if I do, my wife will put me to work at her law office. So I'm not sure she, and you can only play so much golf because, as golf addict as I am, and I'll play 80 to 100 rounds of golf a year, not including scrambles and all that. And that's a lot of golf. There's a time when when I click on this football, that's the last thing on my mind is playing golf. It really is. It has priorities. My priority is, when I click it on and say, well, would you rather be playing golf or would you rather be coaching? Well, it's not even a question. I love what I'm doing job-wise, and hopefully I can do it for a long time.
All right, finally, Coach, last question we have of the day. When everything's said and done, what do you hope people will remember about Coach Martin, most of all?
That he's a good person. He's good. He was good to everybody. He's got a kind heart. He goes out of his way to help anybody, would do anything for anybody. That they would want, I always say this, I try to treat our players as if they're my sons. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I always did that, but I always wasn't very good at it because I never had, until I had children. And then once I had children, you get in that same boat and say, would you talk to your child like that? Or would you treat your child like that? How do you want the child to be treated? And as long as, one thing you can do, you can come out to our practices at any time and you're not going to hear one profane word out of anybody. And I'll have 11 coaches, including myself, out there this year. I'll have 8 assistants. Myself will be 9. I'll have 2 student assistants. And you won't hear any profanity. You won't hear profanity out of our players. And if they do, it's corrected. And, I talk to our players all the time about, good character. And I want people to know me for that. I want them to say, that guy's a stand-up guy. He'll do anything for you. He handles himself the right way. What I don't want is, here's how Coach acts, but this is really how he is. I don't want that. I want the same guy that y'all are talking to today. If you come in my office before a game, it's the same guy that's going to be talking to you then. I don't change demeanors. I don't put on a different hat. I don't do it for my players because I've learned through time, players see fake. They can tell if you're not genuine. They can tell if you don't mean what you say. And so there's sometimes we got to do things to show them that we mean what we say. But our players understand everything we do is with love. And I think that's one of the things that that I want to be known for is that he loves his players. He's not afraid to tell his players he loves his players, and I do all the time. And we're not afraid to give praise to God above. And we understand that in the very end, to be honest with you, it's a game. It's a game. It's like any other game. Sure, we all want to win, but there can't be a winner. Everybody can't be a winner. You're going to lose. And I think that losing teaches them a lot as much as winning does. And now I don't want to lose a lot, not anymore. Okay, I've lost enough to, they always say losing builds character. Well, I got enough character built. Okay, so I tell them all the time that, coaches wise, you'll see us, when we do lose, and we haven't lost many. We've lost 6 games in the last 3 seasons, and I think 3 of those losses are to Piedmont. How we handle that is that as coaches, we don't browbeat our players and demean them. We learn, again, living forward. Hey, what did we do wrong? How are we going to improve it? Let's move to the next step and move to the next game. And we don't get caught up looking behind. And because of it, we've had a very good success rate on the game after a loss.
Coach, I stopped by, watched one of your practices last week. We talked in the office for a little bit, and I didn't want to bring this up on camera, but the minute you see me walk onto the field, you asked me, now I'm 38, but you asked me if I had any eligibility left. And I talked with my high school administrator, and I don't.
Okay.
So you're going to be stuck with Dominic Thomas.
Okay, well, we'll get by with it. I won't be able to
run the ball for you this year.
Well, I hate that, but
I think you'll be in good hands.
We'll be in good hands. We'll get by with Dominic. Well, he probably wasn't our first choice after I talked with you, but we're going to let Dominic do it. But it's a pleasure. I've got such a blessed group of coaches. My coaches are second to none, and I've coached. People always ask. There's guys that stay at school make a lifetime at one school, and there's nothing wrong with that. I had that opportunity, and I am not sorry of the opportunity that I've taken. My travels have brought me where I am today, which is where I'll finish my career. I told somebody before, It's not about the money. It's not about this, that, or other. It's the perfect fit. And I'm at the perfect fit. And this is where I'll be. And one day when I'm not Ohatchee's head football coach, I won't be somebody else's head football coach. When I finish at Ohatchee, I'm done. And I know that. And I'm going to stand by that word. I mean, and I've had opportunities to move on. But the one thing that I look back on is it has been absolutely the best job that I've ever had. Some people are just perfect fits. And these kids, these coaches, I've got 8 coaches that are outstanding. We all get along. We all, there's no backbiting, there's no arguing, there's no whatever. Now, does that mean we don't have, in the offices, we don't disagree sometimes? Well, sure we do, because that's how you get ideas. I mean, I don't want a bunch of yes guys. I don't want people to do everything I tell them to do, because you know what? The great thing about it, I hate to say it like this, is, look, I've coached teams that I've coached really hard and they've gone 0-10. But I've also coached teams that have been on coaching staffs that have gone 15-0, and ones that have gone 11-1 and 12-2, and had a bunch of great teams. And this staff is just second to none of those. And I've been at, I think it's maybe 9, 10, maybe 9 schools, different schools, because I went 2 stints at Ponchatoula and 2 stints at Destrehan. So my first year as an assistant was at Winfield Senior High School, then Woodlawn High School, then Ponchatoula High School, then Destrehan High School, then Neville High School, then Rayville High School. Then I was back at Ponchatoula and Destrehan. So it's 6 in Louisiana, different schools. I came here, I coached a year at Spain Park, I coached 2 years at Calera, I coached a year at Pell City, I coached a year at Hillcrest, now I'm here. So that's 5 schools here, so it's 11 schools, okay? Now, in those 11 schools, that's 11 different staffs. So I have got a bunch of friends in the coaching profession, and I've been around a bunch of different faculties, and I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. And I don't tell coaches, hey, you should jump around. I don't think that's wise in your profession. But the opportunities that I've been given weren't jumping around; they were opportunities for advancement. But as I got older, I realized that advancement, coaching at the highest levels, whether it be 6A, 7A, or whatever it is, that wasn't always the most satisfying if the fit isn't absolutely perfect. And Ohatchee's been the most perfect fit, regardless of what class we're in. And it's been a wild ride, and it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, I feel like it's just beginning, because I'm not looking to go anywhere soon.